Salam Ashraf. New year, new decade, new democracy in Iran. That's what's on the agenda for this year. And I join my colleagues in wishing you all a very happy new year. We have been witnessing in Tehran an historic change in what the demonstrators are calling for. In June and July, it was anger, real anger, at a stolen presidential election. But over these last weeks, that anger has turned into something far more profound. And it is seen, as it is meant to be, a rising demand by millions of Iranians for a change of what's going on in that country. A call for democracy, an end to the religious dictatorship, a separation of Islam from the way in which the country is run. This is a real historic sea change. And this is why the mullahs increasingly are turning to more and more violence. It is beyond belief, isn't it, in the Islamic Republic of Iran that the Majlis should be considering passing a law which inflicts the death penalty within 5 days on anyone publicly criticizing what that government is doing to that great country. What we are all doing here today, criticizing our Prime Minister, our leader, our government publicly, and calling upon him and his government to change their policy towards this dangerous regime, not just evil, dangerously evil. Now, in the House of Lords yesterday, I asked a question about what representations the government had made to the government of Iran about the increasing violence used against pro-democracy demonstrators. I must say that the answer I got from Baroness Kinnock, who's the Minister of State at the Foreign Commonwealth Office, is the clearest statement I have ever heard from any government minister backing the pro-democracy demonstrations in your country. This is part of what she said. We admire the courage of thousands of ordinary men and women who strive for recognition of their rights in Iran. We have consistently condemned the violence meted out against those who simply ask that their basic freedoms are respected. She went on to add, we will continue to seek an improvement in the human rights situation in Iran and speak out wherever and whenever we see such flagrant abuses of civil liberties. Now, some of my colleagues in the House of Lords who joined in that short discussion spoke against my call for us to recall the British ambassador in Tehran as a mark of our disgust at the violent assaults and other activities against the pro-democracy demonstrators. They argued that we needed to keep these diplomatic channels open, that we needed to continue to talk to the regime. The inference being, if you talk to them long enough, you can turn them into human beings. And I have to say this to them with the greatest respect. We've tried this for 7 years at least. We've been trying for 7 years with presents, with offers of economic aid and all the rest of it. And what have we got out of it? I tell you what we've got out of it. We've got them now, according to the United States intelligence services, in the process of making the drawings to build nuclear weapons. That's what we've got out of it. That's where that dialogue has got us. And this is why I say we should learn. We forget our history, don't we? Not least in this country. There were people in 1938 and into 1939, for that matter, who were arguing that we've got to keep talking to Hitler in Nazi Germany. If we spoke to them, he wouldn't invade Poland, he wouldn't invade Czechoslovakia, we could become friends and the world could live in peace and all the rest of it. We know now, over the corpses of 6 million Jews, of millions and millions of men and women from countries all over Europe and the rest of the world, who gave their lives to stop that kind of fascism, to from infecting this planet. And we have now the ghosts of that Nazi regime ruling under the perverted banner of Islam in Iran. There can be no appeasement. There can be no talking to these people. The language they understand is one of firmness. And that's why I hope, in spite of what the Chinese said yesterday about not backing tighter sanctions, if they won't do it, then the countries that are willing to do it should get together and tighten that economic screw. The only language these people understand is the use of this kind of sanction, you being in breach of undertakings you've given about the development of nuclear weapons. We must get them to understand that we mean it. And we don't mean it if we keep on saying to them, well, yes, we know you've not done that, but let's talk about this, that and the other. It sends entirely the wrong signals. The only policy that's going to pay off is one of firmness. We stand on this, we mean what we say, and we are determined they are not going to get their hands on nuclear weapons. To produce a lethal mix of their violent fundamentalism with nuclear weapons, that's the last thing that either that part of the world needs or any other part of the world for that matter. Now, I believe that Iran really is on the march. I know it's easy to stand here in a democratic country and say things like that, but I really do believe there's been, as I've said earlier, an historic change in the mood of those demonstrators in Iran. Bravely and very significantly, men and women walking alongside their brothers, their fathers, their uncles, men and women together, and particularly the women. They really do need and deserve our praise. Defying the thugs in uniforms, standing up to the violence thrown at them, determined that the mullahs are soon going to be a dirty smear on the pages of Iran's proud history. That's what is within reach this year, and I think we've all got to do our level best to help the people of Iran to achieve democracy, respect for human rights, and take a dignified place in the world community. Thank you very much indeed. Oh, thank you. Sorry.